But we are just past 2:00, so I think we should officially get started. I want to welcome everybody today to the Mylio Photos Coffee Break. My name is Angela Andrew. I'm a product evangelist for Mylio, which means I'm here to help you be successful with the software. Our coffee breaks are all about learning about the application, getting inspiration about photography and creativity in general. And today we've brought in Jefferson Graham to give us some tips on using our smartphones. So I met Jefferson a few months ago. He's done a little bit of work with us with Mylio. He hosts the Photo Walks TV YouTube channel, has a great blog, tons of great stuff. So Jefferson, if you want to put any links into the chat to share with everybody, that would be great. I know I shared a few things on the community as well in the event post, but Jefferson, welcome and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. What Angela didn't tell you was that she's my special guest on the most recent episode of Photo Walks TV, where we filmed in San Diego. And I had this dream of getting all these great drone shots all over San Diego. And my trick, what's your name, Mark, is that I go over the water, because the worst that could happen is the drone will fall in the water. It's not going to fall on anybody's head. So I'm standing in Coronado at the foot of the water there, trying to go up. It will not leave the ground. It is jammed, because I've got this double whammy of an airport that I was more than 5 miles away from the airport. So that's the rule, is you got to be more than 5 miles away. But I had the military base right near me, so it was just jammed. And but once I got to La Jolla, I was also Ocean Beach. I was able to shoot, to fly in both of those places. And the other thing, Mark, is the next time you think the drone is coming for you, just play with the little button there and go up, you know? Yeah. I've got the Mavic Air 2S. I've crashed many a drone. I've used all of them. And I guess my words of advice was start slowly, be on a cliff, be over the water, be somewhere where you're not going to have it fall on someone's head, you know?
Okay.
And just get your bearings right. You know, they know more than we do, and they're very good. And the home button works really well. Return to sender.
Yeah.
And that's what I do every time.
Yeah, that's my master.
Yeah. So anyway, I've got a website called photowalkstv.com. I have a show called Photo Walks TV. It's all about travel photography and going to great places like San Diego. And I'm going to Solvang tomorrow. I'm going to Japan in March. I was in France a few months ago, and a lot in California. Where is everybody from here? What's the makeup? Like, Mark, where do you live?
I live now about 40% of the time in Houston and 60% in Dominican Republic.
Okay. Let's see, who else is here? Where's George? George H. Where are you from?
I live in Arizona.
Okay. I love Arizona. I'm your next door neighbor. Albert?
I'm from Edmonton, Alberta.
Oh.
And it's nice and warm up here today. It's only
Yeah.
It's only about 10 below Celsius.
Okay. Well, I've been in Canada in the summer. I was in British Columbia this summer. I had a great time. Larry?
Bellevue, Washington.
Bellevue. Okay. You're the neighbor to Mylio.
Sure.
Yep.
Gilbert's Deli. We love that. Jeff?
I'm in just outside of Minneapolis, Minnesota.
All right. Cool. And Maggie?
Oceanside, Oregon.
Oceanside, Oregon. I love Oceanside. I love Oregon. James?
Northern New Jersey.
Great.
Nice.
JC is in Bellevue, right? Maybe.
JC's in Bainbridge Island, Washington, but he
even better.
commutes to Bellevue for the office sometimes.
Yep.
Okay. And where? How about Jerry?
I'm in San Antonio, Texas, and I've already watched some of your YouTube videos. I wish I had known about you earlier. I've already learned a few things with my iPhone.
Oh, cool. Awesome. Well, they're still there. They're available to watch anytime you'd like. Let's see. Who do we have? Lori.
So Lori is new to the Mylio team, so she's going to be joining us at more of these events. Lori, do you want to unmute and let us know where you're coming in from? Or I can just spill the beans. I know she's coming in from Arizona.
Okay, she can't unmute. We have two people from Arizona
No
and two people
worries.
from Texas. Michael Coralon, right?
Carolyn, yes, thank you. Toronto, Ontario, and we're not allowed to fly drones in the city. Period.
Right. So I understand they're very, very strict in Canada on those rules. I did fly them in British Columbia this summer without too much trouble. Nobody
I've been hang
ran
gliding in
after me.
British BC, but can't fly a drone in Toronto.
Yeah, they when I was in Banff, they are very serious. They would put me in jail if they caught me.
Jeez.
Wow. Well, I think
Yeah.
in the national parks in the US, it's pretty strict too, right?
Very strict in the national parks. You're not allowed to fly, but you can fly outside of the national parks, which amazingly looks kind of similar sometimes. Like if you've ever been to Zion National Park, you could fly right outside Zion National Park, and you could get the gist. So, let's see. So, Mark S.
For those of you just tuning in, everyone's letting us know where they're tuning in from.
Okay. Well, you know,
I know we've had a few new
I
ones.
get the idea that we have two people from Canada, two people from Texas, two people from Arizona, two people from Washington, and two people from California today. How's that sound?
Sounds good. Well, you haven't told us where you're coming from. You
Oh,
said
I'm
where a
coming
lot of the
from-
places you've been, but you
Yes.
haven't.
I'm in Manhattan Beach, California, which is a Los Angeles suburb. It is a iconic Southern California beach town like you see on television when Pamela Anderson is running in slow motion on the ocean. It's not my town, but it's similar. It's all about volleyball and loving the beach and that sort of stuff. And that's a picture behind me of Manhattan Beach that I shot on an iPhone 8. And it's a 20 by 30 print. I have, God, on my desk, I have, terabytes and terabytes and terabytes and terabytes of photos. And so it's, Mylio has been a great thing to try helping me manage my collection, which is ever growing. But Angela, you want to talk about travel photography?
I want to talk about travel photography and how we can make the most of using the phones that we always have with us. So I'm going to guess that just about everybody here has a smartphone of some variety, whether you're on Android or on iOS. Most of these, if they're made within the last few years, have amazing little cameras in them. And Jefferson has some awesome tips on how to get great pictures with these cameras and how we can use them when we're traveling.
Okay. Well, first of all, if you are going to be traveling and you're not going to Africa, the idea of taking a camera with you anymore is just kind of nutty because it's hard to travel and it's hard to walk around a city all day long, going to this place and that place with a camera around your neck. And for the kind of pictures you're going to take, you're going to do really well with a smartphone camera. I brought two iPhones, or was it three? Three iPhones with me to Paris, and I did just fine. I missed my camera a little bit, but my neck and shoulders did not miss it at all. And I roamed around San Diego. There were a few shots I could have gotten probably a little better with the camera, but again, my body really appreciated that I wasn't running around with those big cameras. So the cameras have gotten so good. You are taking, I think most people don't realize this, but every time you press the shutter, you are getting a multiple exposure of about 9 photos. So that's one reason why your pictures aren't overexposed. They're not underexposed. They're not fuzzy. They're all those things that pictures used to be. Somehow they miraculously look pretty great, except when they don't. But the multiple exposures really come a long way. When it comes to smartphone tips, my number one tip starts this way. If you're going to go out and do a shoot with your large camera, you're going to have a charged battery and you're going to have a memory card that's cleared. And that's the way it's going to be. Too many people show up for shoots with their smartphone with a dead battery or a battery that's expiring, and they'd have no idea how much room they have. So the first thing I say is charge her up. Second thing is check your storage settings, which is in the menu, to see how much room you have and to make sure you have room, and offload some stuff before you leave if you don't have room. And the third thing is to buy a power brick, a power bank that will give you an extra 8 hours of juice. For $20, you can buy one from Anker or whoever you want to buy it from. And you charge that baby up and you have it in your pocket, in your purse, in your pants, in your wallet, not in your wallet, in your bag, but you have it on you so that you don't miss the shot.
It's a great tip. You know, you kind of leads to, I think, a lot of your other tips is you still have to treat your smartphone like a camera.
You treat your phone like a professional camera. If you treat it nicely, it will give you pro results. And basically what that means is you don't pat it like a cat. You know, I'm saying that you just take the belief that this is a professional camera and you walk in with professional photo techniques. Like, do you do all your pictures at 2 p.m? Or do you do them early in the morning or at magic hour? I think everybody here knows that anytime they've seen a travel brochure, all those pictures are taken in the evening, all of them. And that's when the world looks best, when the colors are muted, when the light goes down a little bit, when the lights turn on. Angela and I were walking around Coronado, which is this little make-believe island. It's not really an island, but they call it an island, right on the other side of San Diego, which is where the Hotel del Coronado is. And gosh darn it, we just happened to be there at 5 o'clock, and we had these beautiful reflections in the water. The restaurant, it's the Blue Water Grill, used to be the boathouse, turned on their lights, so the lights of the restaurant were being reflected in the water. It was just amazing. And it wasn't that we were geniuses. We were just happened to be there at the right time. So if you know that photography, the number one thing really for me is timing is everything. Timing will determine getting great photos or not. You start there and then go down the list. I see a question just came in from Jerry. One of your tips addresses cleaning iPhone lenses. Best method. Are protective caps worthwhile? I don't know a lot of them that are sold. I'd say bring a cloth with you. This is not a cloth, but there's a cloth on my desk somewhere. Oh, look, there it is, a real cloth. Yeah. Bring a cloth with you. And if you don't have a cloth, your shirt or your blouse will do way better than not. I've shot on the iPhone and I said, geez, why is this photo so awful? And then I wipe down the lens and all of a sudden it's good. Another question in from Larry, how much storage is enough? Well, how big is your phone? Do you have a 512 gig storage, and do you have 450 gigs free, or do you have 10 gigs free? I'd say if you had 10 gigs free, you're not going to go very far. I mean, it's not just that, but then your phone's not operating correctly, because if you've used all your storage, then everything slows down. So how much storage is enough? I'd say at least 100. What did JC and what did Angela think on that?
I think it's a matter of how long you're going to be gone and what methods you use to manage the storage that you have. So I'm going to assume that pretty much everyone here is a Mylio user, and hopefully you're using Mylio to back up those pictures from your smartphone. Well, there's this really cool feature when you go into your smartphone settings menus is you can free up space on this device. And what that does is if you're running a phone that has, minimal storage space and your camera roll is taking up a bunch of it, what you can do is go to that free up space on my device. It's going to look at what Mylio has backed up to a vault, make sure it's protected, make sure it's safe, and then remove it from your camera roll because it knows you can still access it through the Mylio app and it's backed up on your vaults at home. So that's a great way to manage space. So as far as how much you should have free, it just depends on how long you're going to be gone, and the resolution of the camera in your phone matters as well. So like my iPhone 14 Pro can shoot a 48 megapixel image. Those can take up a lot of
60 megs.
A lot of space really fast. So you just have to have an idea of what your camera eats in order to keep it happy.
Now there's a bunch of caveats there, because if you subscribe to iCloud, which I don't recommend, and I'll tell you why, but if you subscribe to iCloud, they will convert all of your photos that you take into low resolution images. And then so on your phone, it's low res, so you have more room, and then you could download the high res version later. The reason I don't recommend iCloud is because you get nag messages from Apple all the time saying, you have run out of space. You need to start deleting things. So the obvious reaction is, I better start deleting. And then you start deleting things off your phone, but they get deleted off iCloud at the same time.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's something that most people want to live with, which is why I recommend alternatives like Mylio, like SmugMug, like Google Photos. I mean, there's a zillion of them. And so The other thing is so lower resolution photos from Apple, but if you go to ProRes video, if you go to RAW photos, you're looking at 60 megabytes. You're looking at the ProRes is giant. And then as far as how much storage is enough, it would depend on what kind of shoot are you doing? Are you doing a family portrait shoot of your relatives that's going to take 5 minutes long? Well, you don't need a lot of room for that. Are you going to Zion National Park for the day? Are you going to spend 4 hours, 5 hours? You know, it depends on what you're doing. I did a family photo shoot this weekend. I shot 25 photos. So, but then, you know, when I was in Paris, I was shooting all day. I had battery dead. My battery was going by 11 o'clock every day. That's how much I was shooting.
Oh, and another factor to consider is what is your connectivity going to be in the place that you're going to? Like a couple of years back, my wife and I did a road trip from Seattle down to Santa Barbara and back. And we were taking lots of photos along the way. And all of those photos were getting home way before I got home because I left my computer running at home with the monitor turned off, but Mylio could see it. So every photo I took with my phone was getting home. And because it was saved in 3 different vaults at home, I could use the free space on this phone on the go and delete those photos. And if I wanted a full resolution version of it, I could just tap on the image in Mylio and say download original again. Same with the photos that I was taking with my DSLR. I had a DSLR that I was using along the way, and I could import those right into my iPad or my iPhone. And those also were getting uploaded. But we were staying in hotels and with family along the way that had really good connectivity. If you're in a place like you're out camping and you know you're not going to have connectivity, then plan to have extra storage.
Yeah.
Now, JC, when you were traveling, your photos would upload to the vault while you were sleeping, basically? You would just open the Mylio app? Right.
When I got to the hotel at night, you know, I would connect all my devices to the hotel network, and I would just open Mylio and go to sleep. And in the morning, in most cases, I had a sync check mark that my photos had been uploaded back to home.
Nice.
And it's really important, everybody, because if you happen to be on vacation and you lost your phone, you've lost all your photos if you haven't backed them up. And if you think I'm being silly, I was taking a drive with my wife 2 days ago, and she goes, my phone, I don't know where it is. Oh my God, I lost my phone. I said, you didn't lose your phone. She said, I can't find it. So I pulled over. It was on the roof. It was on the roof of the car. And I had only gone a few blocks, but she found it on the roof. Had I gone a little faster and driven over it, everything would be gone. Now, she backs up her photos, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. And conversely, you know, I've taken trips where I'm on a boat in literally in the middle of the ocean, and there's no connectivity anywhere. So in those instances, I take a laptop with me, I take an external hard drive, and any photos that I'm taking along the way, which in those cases are mostly underwater photos, those get saved to at least 2 places. But because I have the laptop and the hard drive with me, my phone photos are also being saved. So
hopefully you weren't saving them underwater while you were taking the pictures.
I tried that once.
I assume the connectivity underwater is not as good as above water.
No, there's some things that work, but it's not worth the expense or effort.
Okay, I want a picture of you with the laptop open underwater. That's what I want to see.
Okay, you provide the laptop and I'll do it.
We need a casing for it.
Or just get one that's already been busted and do the picture for the picture's sake. So we've talked a lot about storage and managing space. What about some tips for capturing? So how do you treat your smartphone like a professional camera?
Okay. Well, for one rule I have is that I don't say, well, this is the only shoot this direction, only shoot this composition. I do it all. I shoot every photo is ultra wide, wide, and telephoto. There are 3 lenses on the iPhone, and I use them all. And one of those is going to be the one that I end up using. And composition rules, I don't think there are really any. It's what looks good to you as the photographer. I'd say, you know, the rules are, if your photo is fuzzy, I generally don't like it. If it's in focus and you want to go that way or that way, whatever works for you. As far as portraits go, I'm a big believer in looking for shade. I want shade because that's when people look their best. And I will keep moving with the person until we get it right. And I will have them move every direction, as Angela could tell you, until we get it right. And that's really important. You know, even at 2 o'clock in the afternoon when things look yucky, sometimes if the sun is right behind your head, it's not too bad.
Good deal. So
Larry has a question.
yeah, so he's wanting to know where backing up phone photos with Mylio is explained. So what you're going to want to do, you're going to want to make sure that you've set up your computer with a vault. And then all you need to do is install Mylio Photos on your phone, give it access to your media library or camera roll when you go through that setup process, and those pictures will automatically start syncing and backing up to your vault. So that's part one. Part two is going to be if you want to free up that space on your phone, what you can do is go to the free up space option there in the settings, and that's explained in the manual. And I'll grab some links for you here in a second. It's really quite simple. There's really no reason in Mylio user to not be backing up your phone photos to a vault and have them under your control. So, and it looks like Jefferson just shared his PhotoWalks TV link. So let me go ahead and grab a couple of links for you. Let's see, Jefferson, what were some of your favorite places to shoot in San Diego?
Okay, give me 1 second. I'm just pulling something up here.
No worries.
Okay.
And if anybody has questions, please feel free to unmute and ask or pop them into the chat. We are happy to answer those questions.
I loved Coronado, yeah, which we were
too.
talking about. It's just gorgeous. Yeah, I've always loved Coronado, as a matter of fact. You know, the Hotel Del is just this wonderful 1880s beautiful hotel that L. Frank Baum used to spend time in. And the movie Some Like It Hot was shot there. And beyond that, the beach is gorgeous. Angela and I were walking down the street, and the light rays through the clouds just stunned me. It was just one of those great San Diego days. And in fact, we did a thing where I think Angela shot them HDR and I shot them regular iPhone. And both of them look great. Both of them look great. Coronado would be my highlight. And then in part two, which is running this weekend, I really loved Sunset Cliffs and La Jolla. Those two were amazing. Sunset Cliffs is in the Ocean Beach area, and it has these steps that just go down, 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 and it was unbelievable. You'd have to see it to really believe it. And as far as in La Jolla, seals hanging out with the surfers, and just gorgeous. It's just one of the most beautiful beach towns, and I've been to a lot of them.
I have to say, I used to live in San Diego, flying drones too. And you're really making me miss it, because a lot of those places, the beaches, wind and sea, all those beautiful spots, it's just absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, well, the Wind and Sea is this like old beach hut that was erected in the 1940s. It was, you know, based on my Facebook, it was the most popular photo from San Diego that I posted. And I didn't do anything special. I was just, you know, I did do a little editing. I've been using Radiant, and I got a really nice photo out of Radiant, which is a one-click upgrade. Makes the colors pop a lot. It's pretty cool.
So you're talking a little bit about Radiant for editing. Do you do most of your edits for your iPhone photos? Do you do them on your iPhone, iPad, computer?
I start on the iPhone. First of all, people always talk about which app to use, blah, blah, blah. I use the Photos app, the camera app, those two apps, the generic Apple apps. I think they're really good. And I start the edit in the Photos app, primarily using the blacks I use the auto button at the front. And when I want to go further, I go to Adobe Lightroom Mobile, which is a free app. And they have a masking feature now, which helps me darken the sky a little bit more. And then when I want to really go for fun, then I throw it into the computer so I could see it a little better. And then I'll edit in Lightroom on the computer. And then I've been using Radiant as well, which is on the computer. They do not have an iPhone app or a smartphone app of any kind. For video, I do all editing on the computer. The only thing I will do video wise is I'll make an Instagram reel or a short, which basically lets you cut the front and cut the end. And that's about it, is all I can handle on an iPhone. It's just too small. And I've never found a video editor that I could stand for mobile. And that goes for the iPad as well.
So for me, for mobile editing, I love the built-in Photos app. It's got some great tools in there. It does a remarkably good job. I also enjoy using Snapseed, which is a free app run by Google. You can get it for iOS, you can get it for Android, and it has a lot of fun tools in it. Now, Jefferson, I know you said you use that one for kind of over-the-top edits, but I find that it's actually pretty good for just some of those minor touch-up tweaks. But I also use Lightroom Mobile and touch into Photoshop every once in a while. Does anybody else have favorite iPhone or Android apps that they use for capture or editing? I'd love to know what you guys think.
If I have to edit on my phone, which I try not to, my eyes aren't that wonderful, and I've got little short stubby fingers. So even on a 14 Pro Max, the screen's a little small for my finger and to see what's under my finger. But when I have to, I'll take the time to import it into Lightroom Mobile and then export it back out.
Right, and John says in the chat he uses Halide. I've played with Halide a little bit. I want to say that was a good one, but I didn't get too deep in it. Great suggestion, though.
I don't like apps that charge weekly, and I think Halide is a weekly app, and
Maybe that's why I stopped using it.
That's enough to stop me right there. And I'm more for $20. You own it. Boom. Thank you very much. Angela, what tools do you use on Snapseed for your edits? Because like you said, I go crazy with the HDR and the drama tools. What do you use?
So they've got a great little erase tool in there. It's not perfect. It's not as good as Photoshop, but if you need to erase some sort of stray trash or something out of your picture, that'll do a decent job. It also has some good tools for straightening images and correcting horizontal and vertical lines. Again, not perfect, but if I'm just doing a quick edit on my phone, it does a reasonably good job. As far as creative things, I love the tonal contrast. It just adds a little bit of extra pop to an image. And then I almost always add a subtle vignette. So if you've watched any of my editing classes, I love a vignette and how it can help you draw your eye into a subject, but you never want people to know that you added a vignette. Like you have to be very subtle about it. So those are probably the tools that I use the most in Snapseed. And then if I go into Lightroom, there's all sorts of great stuff in the masking, and there is wonderful.
Yeah, and Lightroom also has the vignette, and any edit has to be subtle. Otherwise, unless you've seen my my Snapseeds, which are not subtle, but yeah.
Well, I mean, if you're going to go over the top, you do it on purpose, and you just go for broke. Yeah. And if that makes you happy, that's your creative vision. I have no problem with that.
Well, thank you.
Really quick before we continue down the editing track, which can go on forever. James had a question about uploading specific photos from a phone rather than loading your entire album or your entire camera roll. And there's a couple of ways to do that. When you first set up your phone, you can choose specific photos to be loaded, but the disadvantage there is that if you only give Mylio permission to access certain photos, then that's all it will upload, and it won't continue to load more photos from that point forward. However, there is a share with Mylio feature that you can use not just with your camera roll, but with any app in your phone. So if you take a photo with your phone using a third-party app, or if you are receiving photos from somebody else on WhatsApp or over text, you can tap that photo and hit the share menu. And one of the options there will be Mylio, and anything that you share to Mylio will appear in the Mylio inbox when you go to the application. And that's a great way to share onesie-twosie photos that you don't want to, that you specifically want to share if you don't want to connect your camera roll directly, or even if you do, because the photo might be outside the camera roll. So
that's a great tip. Wonderful.
Hi, Angela. Sorry, it's Darren here from Wellington, New Zealand. Overcast and muggy and warm and hot. Sorry, I missed the beginning, and I did see some of the introductions, but at one of your other sessions recently, I mentioned that I use Photo Toaster, I feel a little embarrassed that I do that now. That was one that I used many years ago and continue to, but I've now, thanks to you, decided to use Snapseed as well. And yeah, obviously it's more than just putting a filter over. Although I used to find putting the filters that they had pre-standard ones and Photo Toaster was helpful. So for that quick edit and post to Facebook, it really was good. It had all the things that I needed, and you can still adjust sliders and things, but yeah, Snapseed's where I'm going now. So thank you for that advice.
Welcome.
Yeah, very good.
I'm glad you're enjoying it.
Anyway, thanks, folks.
Thanks for tuning in from New Zealand.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's all go visit. What do you say?
Yeah, Darren, can we come crash with you?
I've just met some Australian friends. That's why I was a little bit late. They've come in on the Ocean of the Sea, a big cruise liner that's arrived in here this morning. So yeah, more than welcome to come visit. Definitely.
Awesome.
South Island or North?
Bottom of the North Island, Wellington, the capital of New Zealand. Yeah.
All right. I thought is it called the Bay of Islands?
Bay of Islands up the north is a beautiful place. Definitely.
Yeah, we stayed there. It was amazing. I'd love to go back.
I have a friend up there with a drone, and she's it's a new toy for Christmas, and we've seen a lot of the evidence of her drone footage, and it's beautiful over the Bay of Islands.
Very awesome. All right, so back to talking about iPhone photography and using your smartphone like a professional camera. What about other equipment? Do you carry a tripod?
Okay, accessories. Okay.
Yes.
I just did a podcast on this. It's going to post this weekend on the 20 must-have accessories, or the 20 accessories that many people like to get for the phone. And of those 20, I bet you I only use 2 of them. So let's just run down the list. So first, there's the gimbal. Never found a gimbal I could stand, and I should be made for the gimbal. I mean, I shoot an episode every week of PhotoWalks TV. I shoot it on the iPhone. I should be using a gimbal, but it slows me down. It's another thing I have to bring with me. It's in the pocket. It's a pain in the ass to balance the phone. So I can do just fine with my selfie stick. I use a selfie stick and I pan, and the stabilization on the iPhone is so good, and on the Galaxies as well, that I don't need a gimbal. And nice. I wish I had a cat to put on my laptop. So that's one I don't like. I do have a cage for one of my iPhones. Now, when I go on a shoot, I usually bring 3 iPhones, and I'll answer the question. You're going to say why. So I have a cage for one of my iPhones, and that one has a built-in smartphone adapter, so it could just go straight on top of here, and I could just screw it in, and then it has 2 cold shoes, so I could put in my light and I could put in my mic. Insta360, $25, combination, selfie stick, and tripod. Somebody just asked, so
yep,
there we go. I swear by this thing. I don't think Angela ever saw me without it in San Diego. Right.
Always
so
had
I really
it with
love
you.
it. Yeah. Oh, and you could just stick it in your pocket too. So that's pretty cool. Why do I bring multiple cameras with me? Are we photographers? Do we bring multiple cameras with us when we go places? Okay. Perfect example. So I'm in San Diego in Point Loma, and I'm doing a time lapse of this beautiful lighthouse. And I'm going in that direction, shooting the day turning to night, right? Well, on the other side is the Pacific Ocean and the sunset. So I had 2 time lapses going at the same time on 2 different tripods, 2 different phones. That's one classic example. Or you have a time lapse going and you have regular video footage going, or you're using one camera for photos and one camera for video, or you show up to a shoot and you're an idiot and you forgot to charge the other phone and it's dead. Well, yeah, you have another one that you could grab, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Other accessories, the stick, Insta360, INSTA 360. Look for it on Amazon. It's roughly $25.
Nice.
Instant, but make sure it's the selfie stick / tripod, because they have 2 of them. The selfie stick is worthless if you don't have the tripod, which I don't know if you can tell, but this is a massive tripod.
It actually, yeah, there were several times you set it up when we were out shooting, and it was just like, wow, that's pretty cool. And I think you even set it up when we did our closing shot there in Little Italy. You had it sitting there on the table across from us,
Yeah.
taking pictures of us with our closing remarks. So that was pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, it's really great on a table. Like, so you go out to eat, you get some pizza or whatever, and you just stick it on the other side, and you know, one person productions. There we go. That's my middle name. Other accessories. Well, first of all, my microphone. So if we want to get into video, the Rode Wireless Go 2 microphones are fantastic if you do interviews. You get one receiver and 2 mics that go back to the phone, or you just record directly into the mics itself. They have a built-in recorder. They're $300. If you don't do interviews and only want to record yourself, they're $200 because then you would get one mic. So I couldn't live without those. What other accessories? I have
related to your accessories, specifically the selfie stick. How often do you go back and forth between the forward-facing and the rear-facing camera on the phone when you're doing your videos?
I'm always forward.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't use the selfie camera. I don't think the quality is good enough. If I'm really stuck, I did some shots. I went to Angel Island and Treasure Island in the San Francisco area, and I tried the old holding it out there. And I just can't hold it far enough. If I had like 2 or 3 more feet, I wouldn't look so awful, but I look horrible. And, you know, my nose is just giant. And what can I tell you? If I was a teenager, maybe I'd feel differently, but I'm not. So I'm a big believer in tripods. I think they look great, and I need to stand back a little further. I did a shot in Carmel with the you can go in portrait mode on the selfie camera. It's just not as good enough.
Not quite as good. Yeah.
But let me give you a secret here. Okay. If you position this self right there, you have 3 lenses, and you know that you're in your eye level with one of the lenses, you're in the frame. Okay, you're in the frame, and just adjust the tripod so that you're eye level with one of those lenses, and you're in pretty good shape.
Nice.
Lighting. I have this a little light from this is Aperture, which it will not go very far. I mean, the light has to be here. I mean, it's not going to go very far, but it will help. And Lume Cube makes a nice light as well.
Now, which Lume Cube do you have? Do you have like the panel one or one of the little actual cubes?
The little cube, which is really bright.
Yep.
But I put stuff over it to make it not as bright. And then I have one of their little panels as well. But again, it's not going to do anything for you in the daytime.
No, they're good for lighting. I've used them for light painting and all sorts of fun effects, but
I did do something in the I did something in the desert on an overcast day, and I was about this far away, and it added something. I mean, it was really nice.
Nice.
Do we have any questions?
Yeah, please feel free to unmute. Let us know what you think. How many of you are actually out there shooting, trying to create art photos with a mobile phone? I would love to know that.
I used to.
Okay.
Then I bought a 60 megapixel camera.
Pros and cons for both. I have the big camera and I've got my iPhone, and it just depends on which one I have with me, which one I'm shooting with. I love shooting with my Canon, but it is big and it's a lot to carry around. It was one of those fun things when I was out shooting with Jefferson. We occasionally take the same photo and then compare and see who really got the better shot in the lighting and everything else, especially when you're talking about portrait mode. It was really fun to see what the difference really was. And is there a difference in the quality? Yes, but you have to kind of get in there and pixel peep in a lot of them to find out. And for what most of us use our pictures for, the difference is negligible.
The shots that we did of the boathouse, which is now the Blue Water Grill, they were incomparable. I mean, between the iPhone and the Canon, they both looked fantastic. I think a portrait is generally going to look a little better on the camera. I shoot on a Sony professionally, so when people hire me to take their pictures, I use my Sony A7 IV, and my 7200 millimeter lens is just amazing. I'm sorry, it's just absolutely amazing. And but I don't want to walk around with it all the time. And another one story that is kind of well known with me is that I was on a shoot, Sony 7200 millimeter lens, tripod, San Francisco. I'm addressing the camera. San Francisco is one of the greatest places to shoot. You just would love it here. And a kid runs up, takes the tripod, takes the camera, puts it in his getaway car and drives away with it. And there went $6,500 like that. And that made me say, if I'm going to go out in public and do stuff like this, I think I'm just going to shoot on the smartphone.
Yeah, the only reason I went to the big camera was because I'm printing huge. I'm printing up to 6 and 7 feet wide. That's the only reason I did it. Before that, I did use my smartphone. I believe it was a 13 Pro Max at that point, but I've also got a complete set of moment lenses for it. And I did have good luck with it. I mean, I was able to do a lot with it without a lot of fuss. I can fit the lenses in my pocket, which I loved. Don't do that with my Sony either. So
accessories, I think that the moment lenses and the a bunch of brands that had lenses had their time. I don't think they have a time now, because when they came out, you only had one lens on the phone, and they say that, they could give you a wide angle, they could give you a telephoto. Well, now you have that. And even if you sprung and you bought for the telephoto lens for moment for $100, it's not going to give you anything. It's not going to go from 77 to 150 millimeter. It's just going to be the same. The only lens that's really worth anything is the anamorphic, which will give you that giant widescreen. But I can get anamorphic in Final Cut, and it looks pretty good.
The difference for me was I always wanted to use the standard lens. I didn't want to use the telephoto or the wide angle lens. I wanted to use a standard lens, but get wide angle or telephoto or more out of it. That was the only reason I did that. And I had good luck with it. I couldn't print as big as I had customers asking for.
Which Sony do you have?
A7R4.
Very nice.
Yeah, I love it. Absolutely love it. And if anybody tried to get near it, minimum they'll have a broken arm. It'll probably be worse.
My theft happened so fast, I didn't even know what was going on.
Wow, man.
I say it was 2 seconds, if that.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Mark, we should talk, because I'm considering making the jump from Nikon to Sony, and that's one of the models I'm looking at.
That's a tough jump. I made the jump from Canon to Sony. It's a tough jump. It really is. The biggest thing that'll kill you with Sony is the menus. They are hard to learn. They're not logical. Well, there's supposedly logic to it, but I have never determined it. But you can have two rows of custom buttons, which is really nice. And I've programmed all 2 rows, and then I've also got 3 modes, whether I'm shooting portrait, landscape, or in specific beachfront. So I have it all pre-programmed that way, because it just takes too long to go through the menus.
You haven't created an underwater mode that you can just share with me, so I don't have to figure it out?
Unfortunately, I have only gone as far as snorkeling once, and I felt so claustrophobic, I thought I was going to die.
Oh, wow.
That would never work for me.
I switched from Canon to Sony, and the big difference was the sharpness in the lenses. Believe it or not, again, that 7200 millimeter lens, which is just amazing.
Yeah, I've got the 24 105 and absolutely love it. It's only f4. It's not lightning fast, but my night shots at the beach, I want to use a drone for anyway. I want to be up and away and over water to shoot them.
Now, one thing about the drone is that it doesn't do well in the evening. So you know that. I mean, it basically falls apart photographically. Yeah. And it will tell you they can't fly at nighttime. So magic hour would be the time you want to fly.
Yeah. I've seen some done with it. I've only seen them, Facebook, Instagram size. So I don't know if I can go farther than that or not. I'm not at the point I can fly over water yet to find out, even in daylight.
Well, we'll have to get an update on that once you get that far and let us know what you come up with. To kind of bring us back to mobile photography, are there any other questions? I know we've We've kept
Yes.
Jefferson for quite a while now, and I want to respect his time and all of your time. And is there anything else that you guys would like to know to make
Can
your
I-
cell phone photos better?
Sorry, Angela, to interrupt. Can
No.
I just ask, look, thank you, Jeff, about the endorsement about the transition from Canon. I have a big, heavy 70-200 lens, and it just breaks my back, along with all the other lenses I carry and the other camera I have. But you know what? On the go, I find my new 13 Pro has a really good selection of the 3 lenses, and I find it fantastic for all sorts. I love that wide angle look, especially with architecture and how you can angle and pivot to get just a beautiful shot. And I love using the phone for that. And in most cases, it's more convenient than getting the bag open and pulling the camera out. So really, it depends on the situation. And for those selfies and friends I just saw before, it was perfect to capture us all together in a selfie. The other thing I'd like to add about the small accessories is a few years ago, I managed to buy a 256 gig small unit that I can plug into the port on my iPhone and just transfer all the files like a small USB drive. I tried others, they failed. You would believe I found a really cheap one on eBay or whatever the equivalent is, and it's done it magic. Yeah, I can just transfer them if I'm away, if I don't have my laptop because I'm traveling sometimes, and I've got a backup. Plus also, I don't use Apple to put things in the cloud. I've never have. I just don't like that whole process. Thanks also to explaining what we can do with Mylios, and of course, pushing it all back to the vault. So, well, the wheels are our oyster now, I think, with online storage and so on. I have a NAS drive, which I would send it back to the NAS drive. But yeah, with Mylio, it just keeps it all in one place. So yeah, small USB attachable device to the phone always clears a lot of that memory out. Yeah.
Yeah, SanDisk has a model called the iExpand, and it sells for about $40 to $60, depending on how much storage is in there. And that works really well. And that's one of those things I don't travel with. I always have it in my bag, along with lots of cables. You know, I used to bring a camera bag with lots of lenses and this and that, and now it's just cables. And selfie sticks.
My previous job was an IT manager for the New Zealand Railways, and I also had bags and bags of cables, and still do take them with me. You just never know that one day you'll need a cable.
Yeah. And you're always charging. You always got to charge something, and will they have enough outlets in the room and all that sort of stuff, right?
So we've got a question from Pamela in the chat. Will there be a way to plug in an external hard drive to the iPhone for a vault soon? So I don't think it's going to be likely as soon for the iPhone. We are working on it for the iPad, and that's going to be based on the USB-C connector. So right now, the ports on iPhone just don't give enough power to run an external drive. But the iPad does. So we are working on making that accessible for a vault. It's not there yet, but hopefully will be soon.
Well, that'll be great.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that too. Are there any other questions before we wrap up for today? All right. Shoot a lot of family pictures. Any other suggestions? What do you think, Jefferson?
Well, suggestions in like how to do the family photos?
Yeah.
Combinations. Always, you've got to go in there. You got to be Cecil B. DeMille. And so, for instance, I did my brother was here visiting with his wife and my mom and myself and my wife. And okay, so it's my brother and my mom. Then it's my brother and his wife. Then it's my brother and me. Then it's my brother and me and my wife. And every combination, because you think you don't need it, but you actually do. And the family needs it, because when you're looking for that one special picture, like, you'll find 3 of you or 4 of you, but can you get the 2 of you? And the 2 of you is really important. And so I just go down the list and make sure I have every combination. I do family portraits every weekend. So I go through this all the time, and people appreciate it. They might get a little miffed and say, well, why do I have to leave the shoot? But they have to, and they understand once they get it done. And shoot in the shade. And that's where people will look their best.
Awesome. Great tips. Any other questions? All right. Well, Jefferson, thank you so much for joining us today.
Before we go, if every person here would do me a favor go to the YouTube link that I put there and watch Jeff and Angela in San Diego. I'd really appreciate it. And then leave a comment and let me know what you think.
Let me copy that link. I'm going to put it down here to the bottom just so you can grab it again. And that would be awesome. If you happen to be in Southern California, Jefferson and I are hosting a photo walk here in San Diego on February 11th. And I believe it's at 9:30 in the morning.
9.
No, 9. I can never remember. 9 o'clock in the morning.
My aunt lives in San Diego, and she's refusing to come because she says that 9 a.m. is too early for her.
I'm not a morning person, but I'll be there for that. And actually, you know, that's kind of as late as you want to be for morning pictures before the sun gets too bright and direct. And
Because I would say 6 o'clock.
I know you're going to be out there before I'm even awake. So
Yeah. But if you're in the area, please come.
Yes.
It's free. The event is free.
And you can sign up if you go to the events section of our community for Mylio. There's a link there and you can go ahead and register, and there's no charge. It really would be cool to meet a lot of you in person. So if you're available, would love to see you. And with that, I want to say thank you, Jefferson, again for joining us, sharing your
Certainly.
knowledge. Would love to have you back anytime. And
Always open.
yeah, I want to wish the rest of you a wonderful day. We'll see you next time.